So in this video, we're looking at the gradient graphs of functions, which you don't have to know what the equation is, but this is an absolute function here. You can see it here. But if we were just given the graph and we had to work out what the gradient graph was of this function, then we need to take it into sections. So if we look at the first section here, you can see that we're going to have a negative gradient, therefore it's going to be below the axis. Then we're going to come into this section here, which is going to be a positive gradient, point of zero gradient at 1, and then a negative gradient, so it's going to be below the axis. And then in this section here, we know we're going to have a positive gradient, and that gradient is going to be slightly increasing. So important thing that we have to realize with functions like this is we just think about the criteria for there to be a gradient. So remember, a gradient is only going to be defined if the function is smooth and continuous. So continuous just means that there's no breaks in the function, and if we look at this function from left to right, there is no breaks in the function, therefore it's a continuous function. Smooth, however, so remember, a function has to be smooth. So what it means by a function being smooth is there has to be a gradual change in the gradient. And you'll see this at what we call these cusps here. We have a cusp at -1 and at 3 here. There's certainly not a gradual change in gradient. Okay, and we'll see that when we run the animation. We've got a negative gradient and then all of a sudden a positive gradient. Same with here, negative and then a positive gradient. There's no gradual change in the gradient. Therefore, at these parts, at -1 and at 3, it's not smooth. And if it's not smooth, then the gradient is undefined. So at -1 and 3, wherever you have your gradient graph and we draw that, you're going to have open circles to represent that there is an undefined gradient. So if we run the animation here, we'll see us starting off with gradient of -6 at this point, and we'll see what's happening to the gradient is it's coming up now, it gets to -4, you see, and then all of a sudden it becomes a positive gradient of 4. Therefore, when we draw the gradient graph, we're going to have a split like this. Okay, and then the gradient, again, if you watch this, it goes -4 at the cusp, then all of a sudden 4. You see, that's not a smooth change in the gradient. So therefore, that means that the gradient will be undefined. So the red function here is the gradient function, and then if you were going to draw it, then you would have to put an open circle at all of these points. Okay, so here, here, an open circle here, and an open circle here, because at -1 and at 3 it's not a smooth change in gradient, therefore the gradient's undefined at that point.